Righty. You got it. Let's get closer. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Welcome. This is an episode we've been wanting to do for a while. It's called Debunking the Experts Against Calexit. So we've done a collection of different professors and experts and people in the media recently talking about why national division and Calexit is bad. We're going to show how all of those people are wrong. That's basically it. Debunking the experts. Yeah. So we'll cover that in a second. So let me do a share screen just to set this all up. We'll cover the arguments in detail, but let me show you what we're looking at so you can take a look. So the first one we're going to look at is secession is not an option at the Daily Kos by Jai Mailers. This came out recently. And I'll summarize the arguments from all these people. But this one is basically that it's a mixture of red and blue. So there really is no pure red and pure place, and ignores the practical reality of how many are red counties and blue states where there are far less blue counties than red states. You can't really split the states up because it's a bunch of dots of red and blue. That's what Daily Kos is saying in this article. Then we're going to take a look at what's with all that fluff about a new civil war anyway. This came out recently. Now, it was an opinion piece for the New York Times. I found a version that was printed in full, and we're going to summarize some of the arguments they have here. So what's with all that Civil War stuff proposed by the New York Times? Then we're going to also include the values voter. He's not really an expert, but I just liked his bitey commentary, and I wanted to shut him down hard for being ignorant. To the un-American people and foreign trolls, maybe you've heard of foreign trolls only promote this, like us. We're not real Americans or citizens. I'm a product of Vladimir Putin, so this guy's getting it right. And foreign trolls.
I thought it was because of the color of your skin. I thought that's
why you can't be nice. Talking about the supposed national divorce, let me explain why it's not just treasonous, but also stupid. America does not consist of red and blue states. That's not the division that we have. America consists of heavily populated cities and surrounding suburbs, which tend to be blue or purple, and red areas, which tend to be red. That's what values voter is. It's basically the same argument as this person. And you're going to see examples of that argument here with this. Not to be done. Here's another article. Secession might, well, I know it's the paywall, but secession might seem the lesser of two evils. It's also the least likely. There's the article. Do that one more time. So that's the article, Washington Post. And finally, this is the one we were talking about. This is the big one. Why Calexit is a terrible idea by Lincoln Mitchell.
Who's that?
Well, we'll show you. So Lincoln Mitchell is an actual professor at the Columbia School of International Affairs and Public Affairs. So he's an actual professor with an actual PhD from Columbia University. He does have a degree from California, but he's a professor and he teaches on international affairs and public affairs, and he's an actual professor. He wrote this article.
Yeah, and knowing this article, I gotta say, like most professors, I would jokingly say they need to listen to their own teachings. But for this guy, stop reading your own rhetoric. Just stop. Listen to someone who actually knows a thing or two about all of this. I get it. He's a professor. But just because you've been given a piece of paper signed by someone else saying you know something does not necessarily mean you actually know shit. I mean,
we're going to show this guy to be really ignorant. So by the time we're done, he's going to look really dumb and really ignorant. And it's going to be close to where you, the public, can't tell if he spent no time researching this at all and just pulled it all out of his backside and wrote it. And our refutation is pretty damning. So we'll show you that in a second. He would be embarrassed.
He should be
if anybody.
embarrassed.
By the way, we reached out to San Francisco Examiner and asked them to print this because they were talking about us, and we had the lead, and they chose to not respond at all, even though we refuted every single point that they made with citations and emailed every single person on the staff. Absolutely no response. So they can have somebody who's not from California slam the idea of Calexit, but they can't have actual Californians who are the largest group associated with Calexit share their piece. That seems like fair media.
And I would like to point out, what magazine is this again? What source? The San Francisco Examiner can get people who aren't Californian trashing on California and will not get Californians sticking up for California.
That's what happened in this article. This article is by Lincoln Mitchell.
I think San Francisco Examiner should lose their California card for stuff like this.
They asked a foreigner to slam the idea of California independence, and then they didn't speak to Californians on the same topic. So that's what they thought was reasonable journalism. I think that's one-sided journalism. Here's Sarah Vowell.
I think that's not even journalism.
Sarah Vowell wrote this article, What's with All the Fluff About a New Civil War, for the New York Times. Here's the thing about Sarah Vowell. When you were saying experts, she's not. So she has an arts degree, not a policy degree, an art degree. And she speaks on This American Life on public radio. And she was a voice actor for The Incredibles and The Incredibles Part 2. She is not from California and has never lived here. And she has a background in languages and art, but she talked about why, for the New York Times, the Civil War was a silly conversation. So she has absolutely no background on this topic that the New York Times asked her to write about. Okay, not to be undone, here's Stephen Marsh. Stephen Marsh wrote this Washington Post article. Oh, sorry. Yes, Stephen Marsh wrote this Washington Post article. Secession is also less likely. Stephen Marsh is not an American, not from California, and not trained in policy studies. He is a novelist and essayist with a degree in culture. I'm sorry, he has a doctorate in English drama, and he got a degree from the City College of New York, and he teaches Renaissance drama. But he, too, is writing about why secession's not good for. So the Washington Post has a essayist talk about a political subject. Not to be undone, the New York Times has a voice actor talk about the thing. Not to be undone, they did get an actual professor for the SF Examiner, but he's not from California, and they
obviously
couldn't.
Not an expert.
And obviously not an expert. And we're going to be referring to this map a lot. This is what you may call reality versus fantasy. I'll get to in a second. Remember this map. So now that you've seen all that, here's the arguments. And I just did that so we could just do this. So here's the argument from Daily Coast. The political reality is there are many red counties in blue states. So you can't secede, right? New York Times, the party leanings of a state can be fluid, meaning they flow back and forth, or purple. The county election results maps tell a messier story of who we are and where we live. More Californians than Texas voted for Donald Trump. So you're seeing the New York Times and Daily Coast really pound home this point of conservative pockets in blue states and liberal pockets in red states. Here's the values voter making the exact same argument. America consists of heavily populated cities surrounding suburbs which tend to be blue or purple, and rural areas tend to be red. So this seems to be a big argument. Hey, you can't have national divorce, and certainly California you can leave, because you have all these Republicans and conservatives in California. Okay. All right. So we'll handle that one first.
It sounds like they should talk to Dan Miller. I mean, he just pointed out a couple episodes ago, earlier today, that Texas Democrats or Texas Republicans are different from the overall national Republican thing. which are different from New Hampshire Republicans, which are different from New York Republicans, which are different from California Republicans.
Yeah. We'll take this first one on. Red inside blue. So is that possible? So let me go back to this map here. I want to make sure that's showing. Yeah, okay. So this is a map of the 2016 and 2018 vote, and the 2020 vote also matched that. We're waiting for the 2022 vote. But what you can see is the area in purple, in pink, was the area that voted Republican. And the area in blue voted liberal. More dark blue, as you see in the Bay Area and in the Inland Empire at the border with Mexico, and the 2018-2016 vote means increasingly blue. But you can even see where I live in the Central Valley, the entire Central Valley is blue. So a lot of people say Sacramento's conservative, Orange County's conservative, San Diego, Central Valley. That is a lie. And here's the map showing you those areas are blue. Now, are they as super blue as the Bay Area? No, but they ain't pink. They're blue. And they've done that 2 to 3 elections in a row, which means they're not going back. So all this talk about Republicans can win back in Orange County and San Diego and the Central Valley and Sacramento, that is garbage and not true based upon actual election results, which you're seeing here. Furthermore, if you look at this map, you'll see that there's a outlined area in the Bakersfield region and in the Visalia region. Those are electoral college districts, or I'm sorry, congressional districts that could go liberal in the future, meaning that we'd have an even more liberal California. Let me show you a little bit. This is the map. So, okay, well, let me do it. 2018, 2008 Republican boundary. So see the light pink? That was the Republican boundary in 2008. And it did include a lot of the Central Valley. And it did include Orange County and San Diego. Now look at the darker pink, red, 2018. And what you'll notice is it's receded. See how there's the pink and then the red is receding from the pink? And we're saying we're pushing them out. All the Republicans are being pushed to the mountains. So the entire eastern side and northern part of California is mountains. So see how they used to touch the pink area was the Central Valley and the coast and part of LA, and now that's all wiped out, and you only have the red area now. The red area touches no part of the coast. They lost the coast, they lost San Diego, they lost Orange County, they lost the Central Valley, they lost Sacramento, and they're even losing more. And that's been, as you can see, this trajectory goes for a while. Now, this is what I want to point out. So the area with the red outline is the same thing. That's the area that voted for Trump dominantly. So that's the area where people dominantly back Trump. Okay, so that is the part of California where they're going, wow, there's a lot of Trump voters. You're right. They're in the mountains. This map, see that light pink? The light pink in the map is the population areas. As you can tell, there's almost no population in the Trump area. So there's a little bit around Bakersfield. There's somewhere around Victorville. And there's Corona. So the city of Corona, the city of Victorville, the city of Bakersfield, and the city of Visalia. So just the city of Visalia, just the city of Bakersfield, just the city of Victorville, Corona, and Corona. So Corona is one of the poorest places in the world. Visalia is a tiny community. I'm an hour north of it. Bakersfield is kind of sizable, but not really compared to Fresno. And so we're also looking at Victorville. Well, let me tell you, you stayed out there a little bit. Was Victorville a bastion of an economic hub with thriving opportunities for everybody and a large population center and a strong economy? Or was it the total opposite? You tell me, you were there.
Well, so I will answer this, but I want to give it a little bit of preface.
Sure.
In that it's not reflective of the people and their goodness or not.
Fair.
It is only a reflection of economics and, socio-political inner workings of cities and counties and whatnot. Like I had spoken about when I got back from Barstow.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Caveat done.
But no, it is not an amazing place to be, especially when you're from somewhere that's not like that. Being out there, especially being stranded out there, it's not really fun. It's rather depressing, really. It eats at the soul and makes you feel like you're going to be stuck there for all eternity, like it's hell.
So as you can see, Jason was talking about the Victorville Barstow area, not exactly a hot spot. Bakersfield's okay. It's not a major city, though. Visalia is a tiny city, and Corona is a very poor city. That's all you would lose if there was a separation between the majority Trump areas and the blue areas. So if they had a split and they're like, oh, there's these red pockets. No, there's not. Not in California. It's basically a cohesive whole. We could cut them off from the side and we would keep, see that word farms? That's the farms. We keep almost all the farms and we keep almost all the cities and all the coastline, which means we keep all the tourism and vacation spots and the economy and the food.
And I like that you included the most important thing up there.
The wine country. Yeah. So we're not going to lose. We get all the farms. We get all the economy. We get all the people. We get all the coastline. We get all the tourism spot. The thing that we would lose is the mountains. And you're right. True. And that's where the majority of Trump voters are. There are Trump voters in the Bay Area, and they are Trump voters in LA. But folks, they are outnumbered. I know them. Like my stepfather's a Trump voter. Okay. He voted for the taxes. He's married to my mom who hates Trump. He's not going to be leaving anytime soon. Even if California became independent, he wouldn't. Why? Because his whole family's here. He'll just complain till he's dead, but he's not going to leave. And so people are like, well, there's these Trump voters in California. Yeah, and they know they're outnumbered. And they know they're the minority. Nobody who's a Trump voter in LA or San Francisco thinks that they have any pull in that region. They know that they're supposed to shut up.
Also, if I might expound upon that, keep in mind, California Republicans, whether they voted for Trump or not, are much different from what we might be prone to think about when we think about Republicans in America. California Republicans are still Californians. And if California was splitting off and they were faced with stay here with my family in this place that I don't agree with everything, but my family's here, and maybe America is still like doing stuff with elections to make absolutely sure Trump doesn't get back. Well, people on that side of the fence are going to actually be more likely to stay around because of all of that, rather than the typical national Republican that's like America, 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 America first, I'm American, and and that's their choice, and that's fine. They made their choice, and I don't disagree with their choice or their ability to make their choice. I support them in making their choice for themselves. They chose that. They want that. They're gonna keep going for that. But if that's not going to be allowed, the people who kind of want something like that are here in California will easily be able to see that you stay with America and you definitely don't get a voice because you're now the enemy of the people and democracy, so says Joe Biden, while the military stands behind him. Or you stay where you live with your family, having your same job, and, sure, maybe everything doesn't go your way and maybe it's not Trumplandia, but an independent California wouldn't be Biden land either. You can guarantee that.
So we showed you, by the way, Jason has the sunglasses on because he has exceptionally light blue eyes and the lights burn his eyes, whereas I have dark glasses. We're both.
I'll peel them off for 1 second for the proof for the camera.
See how that's why. So he's not trying to be aloof. It hurts his eyes. Okay. And I don't want to have bad video quality. And if we cut the lights, the video looks like garbage. So this was a compromise. That's why he's not trying to be cool. So he is cool. So
and two,
he doesn't have to try.
I'm just good.
So you saw we shot down this one that you can't. These a lot of experts, Daily Kos, New York Times, Values Voter. You can't split up because there's these pockets. We showed you that's garbage. The only Trump dominant areas of the mountains, we can cut them off. And the Trump voters in LA and the Bay Area know to shut up. And if they were going to leave, they would have already left. Secondly, it's important to point out that the people who left California, because everybody likes to talk about you're hemorrhaging people. Okay, well, they left for money, not politics.
Yeah.
So that's a hard fact. They left for money, not politics. That means they weren't upset at the political climate here. They just couldn't afford it.
I can't afford it anymore either.
Yeah, they're not going, oh, I hate their values. That's not what happened. Secondly, a lot of these Californians go into other places and vote in California. So say what you will, but California has voters. And a lot of these conservative Californians who left were going to stay if they could have afforded it. While they complain about it, they were going to stay if they could have afforded it. They only left for money, not politics. By the way, Fox News agrees with that. Fox News isn't saying politics. They're going, cash and they can't afford it. California is, a horrible place to live and difficult to afford. So just want to point that out. So the Trump voters in the major urban areas are going to be quiet and complacent because they already do that now. And if they were going to leave, they would have left. And they haven't even left during this thing for political reasons. The other Trump voters on the county, on the mountainside, we can cut off, and it effectively wouldn't affect our economy or our population or our ability to feed ourselves in any capacity. Also, it wouldn't affect the tourism industry or basically what are the image the world has of California.
If I may slightly, because my home area up in old gold country is very much part of that. If it gets cut off, my home area is no longer California. I do also see, having, gone to Lake Tahoe and the ski resorts and whatnot growing up, there is actually a lot of tourism up there. Backpacking the Pacific Crest Trail is also a huge thing. I've done it. Many, 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 many people from around the world come to do that. I do agree that if we had to, if it came down to it, California is leaving and California Republicans say, hey, we are not leaving with you. We want our half. Yeah, that is a workable compromise because it's contiguous. It would be nice to see us all stay together, though.
Sure. That's what we want. Absolutely, for California to stay together. The point was just to show that these experts were wrong.
Yeah.
I would say that, yes, Yosemite has tourism. Yes, the mountains have tourism, a fraction of the amount of tourism that the coast and everything associated with it brings in internationally. And that's a documented fact. About the legal process, but yes, we want everybody to go. We don't want to lose that. We want everybody to go. I just wanted to refute that these arguments you're going to see all over the place where you stupid imbeciles don't know what you're talking about. Well, no, you don't know what you're talking about. And we showed you hard data from the last couple of elections showing that. So wanted to get the facts straight. The experts were wrong. Straight up prove that. Here's Washington Post with Stephen Marsh. The legal process of separation is profoundly complicated, and the laws of the United States render it much more difficult to achieve than it is elsewhere. Scalia wrote, Justice Antonin Scalia, former Supreme Court Justice, 2006. To begin with, the answer is clear. If there was any constitutional issue, it was resolved by the Civil War. There is no right to secede. So here's how that's dead wrong. Texas versus White came after the Civil War. So Scalia's wrong. Washington Post was not able to mention in their article where they say, oh, it's complicated, and Scalia said you couldn't do it, that Scalia got it wrong. Scalia didn't mention Texas versus White, and Scalia did mention that Texas versus White came after the Civil War, and Scalia didn't mention that The Civil War never had a legal decision. This was the only legal decision, and it's more current, which makes it legal precedent. Those are all facts. Why Washington Post can't print that and why Scalia couldn't say that, I don't know. But that's for the facts.
It goes to further that thing that I was saying about the professor earlier, is that just because you have a piece of paper, just because you're put onto the Supreme Court of the United States of America, it does not mean you really truly know what you're talking about. It doesn't mean you're really the expert. What it means is you have people behind you. That's it.
Civil War did not settle the secession question. A war is not a legal document, as we've explained that in many episodes. So if you look at World War II, it didn't end because they bombed the hell out of Nazi Germany. There had to be high-ranking Nazis and high-ranking Japanese imperial officials come and sign an armistice. That is well documented. It is only at that time that it ended. This has been the thing since the medieval times, okay? So you don't just have a war and then it's over and that was the, no, that's not, they write up decisions like the king now rules this land, you are subjects. So we have a legal decision came after the Civil War, makes it legal precedent. And it says you can secede, and it says in the Texas versus White, you only need consent of the states. Not to be outdone, the Washington Post, who's citing Scalia, says the same thing as the SF Examiner that has a professor. While the Constitution does not specifically forbid states from seceding, there's nothing in the document that permits it either. If California were to try to secede, there's little reason to think the U.S. would let the state go easily. That's the same argument. Texas versus White says consent of the states. If we got consent of the states, there is a constitutional way to secede because the Constitution says that for all legal decisions, they are finally arbitered or just determined by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court looked at secession. Supreme Court said it is legal with consent of the states. Period. End of story. Secondly, 2 California constitutional scholars have said consent of the states was not defined in Texas versus White, and so it could mean a simple congressional majority. Erwin Chemerinsky, who invented 2 law schools at 2 California universities, so 2 UC law schools, he was dean of, top constitutional scholar, and he said simple majority consent of Congress. Now, for some reason, SF Examiner and Washington Post could not mention that the top constitutional scholar in California and also one in all of America said consent is not defined, consent exists, and consent could mean a simple majority. So here's Washington Post saying the same thing, and here is SF Examiner saying the same thing, and they are both dead wrong, and they both didn't mention key facts. Am I missing something here?
I just point out yet again, this is SF Examiner putting out falsehood that dissuades people from the movement for self-determination.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but they went and printed what Scalia said, even though it was wrong, yet could not print the words of a renowned California legal expert. They can print lies, but they can't print the truth out of a Californian's mouth.
So, top constitutional scholar, widely cited, widely respected. Anybody who studies constitutional law in California knows who Erwin Chemerinsky is. No one in California dares to question him. Dean of 2 law schools, he says Washington Post and SF Examiner are dead wrong. Texas versus White does allow for consent to the states. Consent to the states could be a simple majority. Said it, nobody contradicted him. Consent is not defined in the Texas versus White Supreme Court decision. SF Examiner, Washington Post, Professor Lincoln Mitchell and Stephen March, both wrong. So let's move on to the next one. This is fun. Washington Post, the Security Council is the arbiter. So the United States, if it wanted to, could easily hold up any state asking for independence. So if you wanted to become...
That is dead wrong.
Why is that dead wrong, Jason?
Take it from one of the world's renowned experts on this, and I actually am. I love being able to say that, by the way. I don't really pat myself on the back too much.
I'll do it. Now cough up that answer.
Oh, what's that? United Nations Entrance Treaty. Oh, that's right. The fundamental right to self-determination, as laid out by the United Nations and agreed to by every government of every member nation, which, oh, wait for it, includes America. America already agreed to it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be a part of the UN. And if the United States tries to do that, they would get themselves thrown out of the United Nations. It is just ridiculous how some people look at that. You Google searched it in like 5 seconds, and boom, found it right there.
Self-determination is in Chapter 1, Article 1, Part 2 of the UN Charter, which America signed as a treaty. Treaty law supersedes domestic law, period. I had an argument with the New Hampshire secessionists about this, and they were like, well, what if the government shuts us down and says you can't secede? Then you'd have to do illegal stuff. And I go, no. Then we would go past domestic law to international law, and international law, which America agreed to, says we have the right, all peoples, to self-determination. Treaties signed by America, which the UN Charter was, supersede all domestic law. That goes back to the 1800s, because you couldn't have a president sign a treaty with a foreign country and then Congress undoes the treaty. It just was completely unworkable. So the precedent has been that this is a treaty, it can't be undone, and it supersedes all domestic law, and it says we do have the right for that. So if America wanted to be mean and unfair, actually we could literally go to the United Nations and say they're not following the UN Charter that they themselves signed, and publicly embarrass them, and there would be no argument America could really give. Secondly, got to point out, I'm not supporting this, but Russia's made a couple countries that America didn't back. They're still around. America's made a country that Russia didn't back, Kosovo. It's still around. So even America doesn't have that much power. America tried to go, Kosovo's a country, I said so. It's still really not recognized. It's kind of a basket case. Russia did the same thing with South Ossetia and another country, and they're still there too. So this idea that you got to get America to buy on the Security Council, period, to get any country made is not true. There are examples, and there are also examples where America's wishes were blocked, and that's on top. That's independent from the United Nations Self-Determination Article.
Yeah.
So wrong again.
And not only that, but for those of you who don't know legal structure and which supersedes which in the United States of America, you might be thinking to yourself, well, what's to stop, say, President Joseph R. Biden from, what's to stop President Biden from signing an executive order that stamps out Calexit? Well, he doesn't have the legal authority to do that. Yes, the President of the United States of America, there is stuff that he does not have the authority to do. He cannot do legally. Yeah, he's the President of the United States, and if he wants to push the magic red button, he can push the magic red button. But you know what'll happen? He will have all hell to pay, literally and figuratively, because he broke really big laws, really bad. So if you think Congress could shut us down, the Senate could shut us down, right? If you think the executives could shut us down, if you think SCOTUS could even shut us down, well, you are sorely mistaken, and you need to learn more civic inner workings in relation to the United States, because it is very clear. The United States already signed away the legal authority to quell movements such as ours, unless we get violent, which is why we are always 100% legal, 100% peaceful only. Because that way, they can never come and squash us. And we can keep working until we win. Because the only thing we really care about, these goons say un-American people and you foreign trolls. Yeah, I'm a Californian. Ooh, sorry. Not sorry. But really, we don't hate America. We actually see that American values are gone in America, and we actually still, for the most part, hold to it here in California. And so we work to secure that for all 40 million of us. That's what it's about. That's the only thing we care about. Save the 40 million Californians. One of which is myself, one of which is Marcus. But really, if you think for 1 second that they can come and get you, you have already lost. You have chosen to lose. You have sat down in the middle of the race. They can't. Not unless you get violent. Not unless you're breaking laws. Don't break laws, which, being violent, and they can't stop us. We can win. We can do this. What's that? Sí se puede.
Yeah, sí se puede. So I just showed you while he screenshot of Erwin Chemerinsky, dean of 2 different law schools, and I showed you the exact quote in the GQ magazine where Erwin Chemerinsky said that. I also want to point out that Erwin Chemerinsky is a study of legal publications between 2016 and 2020 found Chemerinsky to be the most frequently cited American legal scholar, period, full stop. Most frequently cited American legal scholar says Texas versus White is real. The consent of the states is there, and consent could be defined as a simple majority. Again, why major newspapers could not quote the top constitutional scholar most cited in all of America talking about this, I don't know why. Took us about 5 seconds to find it. I don't know why the Washington Post and the SF Examiner were not able to have people who could do that. So I'll leave that to you to answer. A separate Texas wouldn't have the power of the current United States in global negotiations. So if a state left, they wouldn't really have any power because you got to be with America in order to do global negotiations. So therefore, Calexit can't happen. Jason, what's your opinion on that? Sounds reasonable?
Oh, people negotiate with America? Wait. America negotiates with anybody? Okay, next joke. Come on. Keep them coming. I like laughing. I haven't had this good a laugh in a while.
So the thing is that I'll read our answer here that we had. 1 second. Okay, well, I don't see it, but basically the answer is California pushed America to do global trade all the way back to the 1930s. So there's a book called Global California, Rising to the Cosmopolitan Challenge. I'll write it out. I'm also going to pull up something here. California is where?
While you're doing that, is it all right if I grab me?
Sure.
It's been over 110 degrees here every day for the last few days, so I have to get another ice cold drink.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
So the answer to this one is that California has been leading America in international negotiations since the 1930s. And if you look at all international trade deals since the 1930s, all the way up to NAFTA in the 1990s and the rebirth of NAFTA in the 2020s, it was all inspired and pushed and led by Californians. So let me show you. That's according to this book, Global California, Rising to the Cosmopolitan Challenge by Professor Abraham Lowenthal. Professor Abraham Lowenthal is the top freight expert in all of California. And he basically pointed out how California loses being part of America because we are internationally trade focused. America's not. They hold up our trade deals. And he pointed out that going back to the 1930s, every single international trade deal America has, it did because a bunch of Californians pestered and begged them to do it in Congress and basically wrote all the legislation for them and pushed it. And that goes all the way through to the 1990s NAFTA decision and the rebirth of NAFTA recently. So how exactly can we not handle negotiations with America when all of America's international negotiations were because we told them to do so and told them how to do so? Does that make sense to you?
Well, no, I mean, obviously the truth is the truth and it's staring us in the face, but this also goes hand in hand with that talking point about how the United States sets the price for our trade goods, not us.
Yeah.
And they routinely set ridiculous, unattainable pricing.
Yeah.
And this right here showcases, well, maybe it's because they really just do not understand a single thing about trade. We, California, have to do all of their trading for them. We have to write it. We have to make it. We have to propose it. We have to pester them for it. We have to plant the idea in their brain. We have to think of it first. We have to think of everything for them and write it out and implement it. No wonder they don't know what a reasonable price for an avocado is.
The other thing that we did negotiation was we did the entire world's climate change conversation. The EU, the UN, NAFTA, NATO, the big bad United States could not get the world together on climate change. California by itself got the world to engage in the most complex negotiating ever done in the world since maybe like the 1945 Bretton Woods Accords.
Yeah.
You're trying to create an entire new tax schedule and regulatory schedule across all countries, merging policy with tax policies. And the UN basically gave up. Then California did it on their own. And we did such a good job that the UN said, why don't you do our job for us? And you hold this super most complex discussion on negotiation ever. And then California did it. So my question to the experts is, if we did all the negotiation for America for the last 100 years, and we negotiated the most complex issue on the planet in the last 100 years, and the people who are supposed to do that, the UN said that we did a better job than them, then what the hell are you talking about when it comes to California?
Yeah.
What are you getting at? That don't apply to us.
Not only that, but don't forget, the UN started where? San Francisco, California.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time that it comes home, since we kind of lead the way with America, which people say is the UN. I know they're not, but America doesn't know that, right? And sometimes it seems like some of the UN doesn't know that. So maybe it's time to come home to California. We'll make sure fair trade is going on. We'll make sure people get together around, very large tables, put very large brains together, discuss very detailed, in-depth issues, and come to real viable solutions for humanity. Sounds good, right?
I want to point out, yeah, absolutely. So this question here is getting at If you leave America, you don't have negotiating power. We literally just showed you how America negotiated on behalf of California, and then the UN approached us independently from America. So that's not true. But it also relates to this question. Questions about trade, tariff, travel between the two polities, as well as what would happen to companies and industries that rely on interstate commerce, would be difficult to answer. That's a true statement. But who did the UN ask to do the most difficult negotiation in a century? California. Who always pushes America to do all of its international trade negotiations? California. So you're right, it's difficult, but who's better than us? It's not America. America did not do the climate change negotiation on its own. America did not push international trade on its own. That was all us. So who better than us to handle complex international difficult negotiations? We're certainly better at it than America. So if we're better at it than America, according to the UN, why can't we knock this problem out?
Yes, it's difficult, but if there's anyone who can do it, it's us.
Who would be better equipped? I feel like this question is getting at, like, America could do this because it's the federal government, and California couldn't. I go, again, that is just not backed up by facts and reality.
America can't even agree on whether or not it actually wants health care for its people. Do we want them to all just get sick and die, or do we want them to live and keep being productive members of society, therefore our economy stays up? I really can't decide. That's America. California's like, oh, healthcare? Well, yeah, no duh. We just can't do it because we're part of America, which doesn't seem to want the people to have healthcare. And healthcare is, I think, wouldn't you agree? Healthcare being one topic is much more easily solvable than an independent California and switching over in the commerce and the trade and the interstate routes and shipping. And I mean, healthcare is much smaller than all of that. And America cannot, for the life of it, get that one done. So if you're going to wait for America to solve things, definitely don't hold your breath, because you'll be dead long before they ever get around to thinking about it.
Here's another one. Even if by some geopolitical miracle it happened, disentangling California from the U.S. would be an arduous task that would take years and damage both economies. My question is based on what? Why would California not pursue trade with America? Our economy is built on international trade. A huge portion of our economy is built on being the international port center to ship goods into America. We're going to negotiate with America and say we don't want to trade with you and we don't want to ship goods through ourselves to you, even though that's a major part of our economic driver. Nobody in California would do that. So why would that be damaging when we're not going to undo the thing that keeps both of our economies intact? I mean, California is an international trade place. So you're going, suddenly California secedes and it stops being international trade, and it stops wanting to run ports, and it stops wanting to travel goods across America. Based on what? Based upon what? Who says that? Who talks that way? When have we ever acted that way in 100 years? What's that based upon? I don't know any sentiment like that out here.
It sounds almost like SF Examiner here. They don't like Calexit. They don't want Calexit. They're very obviously like America, pro-America, and very American, which, hey, their choice, right?
Sure.
But they're very much that way. They're very much not for Calexit and not thinking about Calexit. But when it comes to something like this, they're going to assume that this thing they want nothing to do with, that they know how it's going to work and how it's going to go. And like, okay, just read this thing up here and tell me that these people are not like thinking and trying to figure out how it would happen and what it would be like, right? Now, they don't want anything to do with it. They don't want it to happen. They're not interested in looking at it. yet they want to talk about it as if they know, without knowing, very obviously, because yeah, it's a big place. It's got 40 million people. Yeah, it's an undertaking. Is it the end of the world? No. Is it impossible? No. Is it something that, would detrimentalize either one of us? No. The worst thing that would happen to America if California leaves is that they would be forced to look at their gross overspending and decide, do you continue to put it all into bombs and bullets, or do you finally start putting it back into books and baby bottles?
Couple more hard facts. Even if by some geopolitical miracle will happen where you could have national divorce peacefully and California is allowed to go, disentangling California from the U.S. would be an arduous task that would take years and damage both economies. So let me show you how that's wrong. There is one and only one study on peaceful secession. Anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world, there is only one academic study on peaceful secession. How Do Peaceful Secessions Happen by Robert Young from Western Ontario University in 1994. That is the only academic study of peaceful secessions. We are proposing peaceful secession using the voting process. This study looked exclusively at it. It is the only study there. You cannot challenge studies unless you did your own. So since it's the only study, we have to take those conclusions. They said when you have peaceful secession, it takes no more than 3 to 5 years, max. And here's the reason. Politicians have to run for re-election in democracies. So no politician is going to not get that secession fixed before they have to run for re-election, or they will be voted out. How do we know that? Because that's what happened to Brexit 30 years after the study. Study comes out in 1994. It makes predictions based upon things that happened in the year before. 30 years later, all of the predictions of the study come true with Brexit. Brexit took no more than 3 to 5 years of negotiation to be done. Theresa May did not make Brexit happen, and she was fired and replaced in a second. That is exactly what the study, How Do Peaceful Secession Movements Happen by Robert Young. He said, because elected officials have to run for re-election, they have to get it done soon. Saw that with Brexit. It'll only take 3 to 5 years. Saw that with Brexit. So here's a study, only one, says you're wrong, professor. And the examples of Brexit 30 years later back up the study, and both of those two things say you're wrong, professor. Secondly, you're talking about economic destruction. Well, I got to point out, California's already banned travel to 22 states, or almost half of America, blocking them from business or travel with the government of California. It's interesting that the professor was unable to mention the only study on peaceful secession, or how secession played out with Brexit, or the fact that California's almost already economically banned interaction with 22 states, when all of those took about a minute to find on Google. I don't know why a professor couldn't do that, but he wasn't able to. So I don't know why SF Examiner and Lincoln Mitchell, an international scholar professor, couldn't look at the only academic study on this, or look at the last time there was successful peaceful secession, or look at the amount of economic discontinuity and lack of increasingly broken linkages between California and half of America. Interesting, he completely missed all that.
The way I look at it is that if you're standing in a room and the light is on, yet you're standing there saying, I don't know that there's light, I can't see it, then what I would say is open your freaking eyes, because you're standing in a room with the light on. Obviously, these people are not using their brains, their eyes, the resources that like nearly all of us have. You got a smartphone, you've probably got Google search engine built into it. You got a laptop or a, iPad or whatever, you probably have access to all sorts of different search engines. And guess what? It took about 10 seconds for each of these things. Oh, gee, Texas versus what? Oh, look at that. Texas versus white ruling right there. And I can read the entire thing. Okay, what about United Nations entrance chart? Oh, look, wow, 10 more seconds. There's that one. It does not take a freaking rocket scientist. It doesn't take one of the world's experts. All it takes is using your eyes, give it 10 seconds and a quick little Google search, and you can see just how freaking wrong these idiots are.
But they can't do Google searches. They can't do basic research. They won't print any refutations from us, and they won't even acknowledge that that exists. So what you're getting is people who don't know what they're talking about popping off with what they think is logical and reasonable statements, but not backed upon research, but then going on a professor, which I find particularly shady because people look at professors and go, well, their opinion has to be educated and based upon references. And we literally just showed you that this professor's whole argument, we're almost done, is based upon not facts. We've literally destroyed every single one of his points. He's a professor, and then we don't get our facts out. So this is why I don't quit the movement, is because we don't get to have fair debates. If they printed our essay and people said, oh, that's garbage, then I might consider quitting. But when we can't even get them to print the essay, when we're the subject matter experts, and I just proved you with the simple Google search that this guy's wrong as hell, well, it says everything.
Also, this whole damage both economies thing, clearly they need some economic experts in there, because I'm not an economics expert, and I even know, just from publicly viewable information from the state of California, go to California State website and look up our economic figures. Go look at it. Go look at how much we lose every year. Yes, we are huge, $3 trillion and some change. And look at how much we still lose to the federal government because of the federal government of the United States of America. Tell me removing a leech from your freaking carotid artery is going to be damaging to you. Yeah, sure, the leech might have to go hungry. But guess what? You're not going to get your blood sucked until you're dead. How is that going to be damaging to us?
You going to run for governor?
I have considered it. I can no longer afford to live here. I will probably become a resident again once we're independent and our tax and kind of job market stuff, rebalance. I find it very sad that I have to say that. It is a hard truth, but as we all know, the truth is the truth, and no matter how hard it is, it needs to be known, it needs to be heard, it needs to be acknowledged. So yeah, as much as I would love to, I don't think I can. And
at this moment.
Yeah, at this moment. And now I will say,
you're also pretty young,
that I already threw it out there before that should we regain our independence, if the people decide, if what we the people decide is that we want to choose a new person to run the thing, I will throw my name out there. I will put my name in that hat for the people, because I am one of the very few people who knows enough about all of this. Marcus here is another one, by the way.
Yeah, but there's very few of us, and you are one of them. That's why I wanted to do the podcast, is that there's only a few people who can talk about this for an hour intelligently.
And understand the economics, the infrastructure, the potentials for future.
But that's why we make these videos, because we want to expand the number of people who talk about it. The only reason he's an expert and I'm an expert is just we've gone over a certain set of facts. They're not smarter. We're not more beautiful than you are.
Oh, I'm more beautiful than you. Come on.
It's just going over the material. There's just a lot of facts. The media prints none of them. That's why it's a specialized knowledge base. If you go to our website, though, we have courses where you will learn everything. Go to calexit.podia, and you can take the courses and learn everything, and you can become an expert. It's not hard to be an expert. You just got to go over the material. That's why we make these videos. 3 more arguments I want to knock out, and we'll close the show.
Real quick.
Yeah.
In further response to Devil War there, I'll tell you what. If you put out a poll asking the people if they want me to run for governor, and the people respond with a clear and resounding yes, I'm not saying like, it has to be 90%, right? The majority, and I'm not going to say simple or 2/3 or whatever. I'm gonna pull a Chamarinsky here and say, if a majority say yes, you got me. I'll do it.
You heard it here. You heard it here. Okay. So stay tuned and get that poll going, Devil War. You know what I mean? That'd be awesome. Okay. Here we go. So this is one of the arguments from SF Examiner. There's no chance the U.S. would simply abandon all those military resources. One solution would be to allow the U.S. military presence to remain in California, but that would undermine the project of Calexit. So he's saying Calexit would have to have no U.S. military in California in order to have any supporters. And therefore, Calexit can't happen because the U.S. military would not go for that. Super ignorant. We have never said that since day one. If he's read anything printed over the last 6 years, he would say no one said that. What we said was let them keep the bases and pay me, because America pays 136 countries millions of dollars each. Like the smallest one was Djibouti, Djibouti, right next to Ethiopia, and they even got like $30 million or something for a tiny little base. So if a poor world's poorest country gets 30 mil for a little base, and we're the world's 5th largest economy, and we have multiple bases, that's $1 billion you can start paying us a year.
One of which is like the headquarters of where they train the freaking Marines.
Yeah. And I just got to say, if you look at Californians saying they will defy stem cell research with President Bush, to they will defy marijuana being illegal from President Obama, to having our own coronavirus and immigration regulations in defiance of Donald Trump. If you look at all of the talk about California being independent, nowhere at any time did anyone say it's really about having a separate California military. We're in the movement.
Although we do already have.
We do. But nobody in the movement said we've got to have our movement. There is no article from anyone supporting Calexit saying we've got to have our own military. And if you talk to Californians, they're not like, oh, the U.S. military's got to leave. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about they want policy freedom over their lives. So there literally is nothing to back up what this professor is saying. Nobody in California at all has ever said or intimated that being independent means no U.S. military bases. There's never said that. No one ever said that. There's nothing like that here.
Also, if the professor was correct about this, that would mean 136 countries that the United States of America controls.
Right. So I guess America owns
Professor,
all. Yeah.
You go to those 136 countries, you go meet with their people, and you go tell them that they are the puppet of the United States of America.
Well, they're not a real country. No, he said U.S. military in an independent California would undermine the project for being independent. So therefore, 136 countries, according to this professor, are not actually independent from America and are just stooges of America. Go tell 136 countries that because they have an American military base, that they are owned by the United States government, and then come back and tell us what sort of reaction you get. I'm imagining it's not going to be good.
I'm imagining there won't be much left of the professor to return home.
Yeah. So you have a garbage argument that 136 countries wouldn't back up. You also did not talk to anybody in California. You also did not review the history of independence activities in California. Nothing backs up this statement at all. And you couldn't do your research or talk to us to know that. So
I'm thinking they couldn't have done a worse job They couldn't have done a better job proving how ignorant they are on this topic.
I guess.
They couldn't have done a worse job trying to convince anyone because, again, 10 seconds on any of these talking points with a quick Google search, and you find the truth readily available, clear as day. 10 seconds. So, this guy's clearly talking out the side of his neck.
So the next argument he makes, which is also not true, and a lot of liberals make this argument, a lot, and it's just not accurate, is that if California left, all of America would automatically swing Republican and all politics would be dominated. So the way he's saying is that California leaves, because we're not there, our electoral college votes automatically go red, or red dominates. So the way he's picturing it is you have the set number of electoral college votes. California's just going to pull its electoral college votes out. So you have a lower number of electoral college votes, which means the red side will dominate. That's how he's pretending. Here's red and blue, they're roughly even. You pull blue out, now the remaining part of blue, this part, is smaller than this part of red, so they'll win. They're saying the same thing for Congress. California leaves. See, here's blue. California leaves. Now we got a smaller portion of Congress than the red part. So Congress is roughly red or blue. California leaves. Now this portion of Congress is smaller than this. That's what they're saying. That is total garbage. That is not the way that it's been since 1776, and this is thoroughly documented. I'll show you how easy it was to find this. So
since 1776, folks. That's when America came to be.
Yeah, and codified 1790 if you want to get real technical and shit. Okay, so certainly by 1800.
As long as America has America.
Yeah, so for at least 2 centuries, this has been documented. Also, we just saw this in 2021. So I'm kind of surprised the professor couldn't get it when we literally saw it. So California lost votes in Congress because it lost citizens in the census. Those votes in Congress didn't dissipate into thin air. They were redistributed to the next most populous states. This is the way that it's gone on for 200 years. So, and here's the states that our congressional college, our Congress seats went to. Texas, Florida, Montana, Colorado, North Carolina, Oregon. About half red, half blue. That happened in 2021, last year. It was widely reported. Somehow this professor couldn't find that article or didn't hear about that, although everybody in America was talking about how California lost population for the first time in 50 years, and it lost congressional seats for the first time in 50 years, and it was literally all over the news everywhere. Somehow he missed that and forgot that that happened. And this is the thing. So when you lose Congress seats, if California left, our Congress seats would be redistributed. If California left, our electoral college votes would be redistributed. The one area you might have it is if we left the Senate, it might just go from 100 senators to 98. That still leaves it really damn close to a tie. We're talking about 2 votes. I'm sorry, but if Dems 2 votes mean you're losing, you're already a loser. If you're down to, we have so barely any control. If we lose 2 votes out of 100, then you suck anyways and you're not winning. Okay? That's on you. It is total garbage to say that the congressional votes and the electoral college votes, which affects the House, the presidency, and the Supreme Court, would automatically go red. That's not the way that it works for 200 years. Those votes go back to the next most populous states. We literally just saw that in Texas, Florida, Montana, Colorado, North Carolina, Oregon, half blue, half red. Why professors can't get that when this has happened last year and has been recorded for 200 years, I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, it's not like it's been cataloged through history or anything.
And here's what he said, and wow, that's wrong. I kind of don't blame him because I've seen a lot of professors and experts say the same thing, and somehow they weren't aware of how Congress votes were divided and electoral college votes were divided, which has been documented for 200 years and took us about 1 minute to find on Google. How all these people couldn't get that right, I don't know.
But hey, they're experts.
They're
on
experts, though.
this.
They're experts. So
They know
Yeah.
all there is to know about this, other than like the inner
All the
workings
facts and
of
anything
how
relevant.
it's structured since
Yeah.
day one of America's existence.
So I mean, if you ask me, I'm an expert on anime. I could write an essay that's super opinionated and tell you what I thought was the best anime and write and call, and it would come off as this essay. Doesn't mean anybody should believe me. In my mind, I'm an expert on anime. Doesn't mean I actually am. Last question. I love this one. Without the U.S., without California would be a much poorer country, and all but the most MAGA adult minds understands that. So everybody, including all the conservatives, understand that they are welfare states and they take money from California. It's only the extremists, conservatives, MAGA addled minds, the most MAGA addled minds, only the super extremists get this wrong. Folks, most conservatives in America get that they need California. They get that. That's what this professor's saying. So let me show you how that's dead wrong.
Yeah.
Well, look at this. In 2017, both the House and Senate Republicans pushed a bill to repeal the SALT state and local tax deduction. According to the LA Times, the main Republican argument for killing the state and local tax deduction is that the break forces residents of low tax states to subsidize those in California. So according to the LA Times, the entire Republican Party said that all Republicans view states that have the state and local tax exemption, like California, as welfare queens that the red states support. So the LA Times says you're dead wrong, and the LA Times says all Republicans feel this way, and they put that on display in 2017 when they were talking about repealing the SALT tax. So if you go back to 2017 and you look at the discussion about the SALT tax, all the Republicans came forward, not just the MAGA ones, and said, California's a welfare state. We support it. We subsidize it. We don't need them. We're fine. So again, dead wrong. And bro, with references that aren't that old. I mean, the 2017 SALT tax thing was a few years ago. How come you don't know this?
Yeah, we're not exactly going back to 1776, year of our Lord or anything, Is what, 4 years ago? 5?
Yeah. How come you guys don't know this? Again, this was all in the essay that we sent to San Francisco Examiner.
Who again could not be bothered with it.
They could not be bothered. So here was that question: why the Constitution doesn't forbid? Why would America let them go? Travel bans and negotiation. Even if by some miracle it take for years and it would destroy the economies to do the negotiation. Californians have to have the American military gone in order to ideologically embrace the idea of Calexit. If California left, everything goes Republican. We talked about how, you can't leave because there's a bunch of Trump voters in your state and it'd be chaos. Only the most MAGA-addled minds would do that. So we did that.
Yeah, and can I say this whole would be much poorer. Now, some things that this professor, the self-proclaimed professor, says make it sound like California needs America. And then here it's like America needs California so bad. America can't be America without California. America will collapse and cease to exist if California's gone. Whatever will we do? But everything else that they have said on every other talking point is pretty much screw you, California, you're dumb. You need the U.S. more than the U.S. needs you. So not only can this professor not make up their mind on whether or not California needs America or America needs California, but also this vastly poorer thing, much poorer, right? Um, it's almost like they forget that there are 49 other states, that there are many different holdings of the United States which are not states but still pay the United States, generate revenue for the United States. It's almost like this dude thinks California is the United States, which, hey, I.
Give me. Okay,
Whoa.
there you go.
That was a bit scary. I thought the power.
It happens.
But hey, you know, I can see why someone might, you know, be inclined to that misconception. Here in California, we are much more American value-wise, right? Like the democratic due process that we value here, the way that we do things, our culture, right? That the Statue of Liberty should even be here in California, not anywhere else in America, because let's face it, America doesn't want you're tired, you're sick, you're hungry, you're poor, you're weak. What they want is your money, and for you to shut up and give them your money. What we want is everyone and everything to just get along and be better and work together to do better for our future generations. That's pretty damn American, right? We value freedom and the freedom of choice. America's like, no, if you don't vote for me, you're not. Oh, well, I guess Biden isn't America, is he? But he was that return to decency. He represents the return to decency for America. He represents the non-red side of America. And he's the guy who told the Congressional Black Caucus, you're not black if you don't vote for me.
So just real quick, I want to say, Andrew Rojas, thank you for registering on the website. You can type in the email for free. Let me show everybody real quick. I was showing people a little bit. Here you go. If you go to, let me do this again. Okay. Whoops. Okay, so you go to calexit.podia. It's the Calexit site. You can scroll down here. Calexit Institute online certifications. Buy now. It's free. All you got to do is put in your email. You give us your email, you get access. So that's what he was talking about. Andrew Rojas, thank you for signing up. We hope other people will sign up. The courses will make you an expert like Jason and myself. Okay. Last question he had. So SF Examiner says, Putin has been working towards the goal for years and supported previous Calexit efforts. Californians would be foolish to help him. Well, let's look at some facts. I know you're smiling. Let me cover the facts first.
Yeah.
So number one, the U.S. Senate Select Intelligence Committee, the House Select Intelligence Committee, the Robert Mueller FBI investigation, and the California Government Fair Political Practices Commission investigation all said there was no collusion and no direction from Russia. So I get it. Lewis spent one hotel night stay at a thing, and people are questioning about how much a closet space that nobody was using would cost. I get it. Sure. But why couldn't this professor in this article point out that the House, the Senate, the FBI, and the arm that investigates all political parties in California investigated us and found nothing? We can't find where Putin's telling him what to do. We can't find a connection where they're taking operational directions. We didn't find lots of foreign money in their bank account. That FPPC investigation subpoenaed our bank accounts under suspicion of foreign money laundering and found nothing. Those are all public records. Why can't a professor find public records that clear our name of what he's accusing us of. Why is he not able to do that? How come he can't mention that?
Well, clearly he thinks he's more of an expert on such things than the United States federal government and the FBI and the FPPC. He's obviously got more access to all information than even the president and the CIA. And he can see things that the president and the CIA and the FBI and the Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security have no access to and no knowledge about.
Right, that's the only logic. Yeah.
Because he's the world's expert on this, right?
So he's pushing garbage that is disproven by this. There is no evidence Putin worked with the money or Putin funded this group. We've had our bank accounts subpoenaed.
In fact, there is proof that is falsehood.
Yeah.
The FPPC even said that has been disproven.
Sure.
Disproven.
Yeah. All public records, couldn't look it up, had to reprint garbage that was said years ago and disproven. Secondly, I guess he's calling 47.5% of Californians stupid.
He's calling us the useful idiot, right?
Well, he's saying Californians would be foolish to help Putin in his regards. Okay. February 2017, Reuters Ipsos, Stanford University, both conducted surveys. 32% were for immediate secession, an additional 15.7% were open to discussion, for a total of 47.5% of Californians were open to the discussion of secession. That's basically half. So I guess half of California is foolish and silly. Now, as a Californian, to have a non-Californian tell me that my ideas are stupid and foolish is insulting. I would wonder how other Californians would feel to have a non-Californian insult half of California as fools.
And not only that, but like the even more direct implication here is that 1/2 of California's voters are actually Vladimir Putin in disguise.
So just another dead wrong. Every single point this guy made in the Washington Examiner was dead wrong. Every single point the other people made was dead wrong. We just proved all of that. So here's the Stephen Marsh article. He's held up as an expert when he's not. Dead wrong. Here's the SF Examiner thing by Professor Lincoln Mischel. We went through every single point he mentioned and pointed out how he was dead wrong, even though he's a professor. We covered a couple other people, and we also showed you how some of these experts aren't actually policy experts. They're voice actors and have drama degrees. Yeah. So why are we getting non-political experts who are not from California to tell us about how this is a bad idea for California? And in the process, some of them insult all Californians, and they can't even get their basic facts correct.
How very American of the professor.
Yeah.
How very American. Telling us Californians that we're dumb.
Yeah.
And that we need you, even though you also then say that you need us. But we need you more than you need us. And we're dumb. And we're 1/2 Putin. So either like my left side is Putin or one of the two of us is Putin or something.
Yeah.
I shoot, like da and niet and vodka.
Okay, we'll end it there.
Does that make me Russian? I know 3 words, kind of.
We debunked the experts. We were not allowed to have our opinions printed in any of these forums. We were completely ignored. They did not ask to interview us. They did not do basic Google searches. And we just showed you how these professors and experts were all wrong with hard facts that took us about 5 minutes to find on Google. So why can't they print our information? Why can't they interview us? Why can't they do Google searches? Maybe because
they're dumb.
Or maybe because it's biased journalism and they want to pump ideas into your head and act like it's a free democracy when it's actually not. One of the two.
I like to just think that it's because they're dumb.
No. So
it's easier to believe that they're just ignorant, just stupid, and not like evil at heart, right?
I think it's so damn dumb that regular stupidity can't cover it. This is directed stupidity. So this is so dumb, it's beyond bumbling.
Blatant stupidity.
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed the show. I know it's an hour and a half, but very informative. We just proved it's all garbage again, and we still don't get a fair debate, which means there's still reasons to secede, and we're not going to stop until we get a fair debate. See you soon.